Well, I am running for the Board of Trustees, position 2. As alluded to earlier, the trust in government is on the decline, and I don't think it's a coincidence that it's directly correlated to an increase in the size of government either. It's sort of that idea that familiarity breeds contempt, and when it relates to the government, I think that's all too true. That the more it intrudes into our lives, the more resistant we ought to become to it. But the big spending and the tax raisers don't just reside in Washington and work in Washington. Rather, they're here in our backyard. The current debt that the Lone Star College is in exceeds $500 million. On May 11th, they will ask you, the current board that is meeting tonight, and we should all be concerned about this, because the last time they met at these meetings, and they voted 9-0 to put a $500 million bond issue again on the May 11th ballot that will drive the current debt load up past $1 billion. Your tax rate from 2011 to 2012 has already increased by over 2%. The reason I'm running for Lone Star College, one of the reasons, is to oppose the bond, to make sure that no new bond issues are issued if this one passes, to work to decrease student fees, to decrease your tax rate, to reduce it to that 10 cent per $100 valuation level, and lower if we're smart about it, because I think that there's revenues with the private sector and support from the private sector that we're not taking advantage of and that we can. The growth rate is not what the college says it is. The Texas Coordinating Board of Higher Education estimates 20,000 less students. We don't need the additional space or the additional debt that the College Board is asking us to take on and that the administration is supporting. If Madison was right about one thing, and well, he was right about two things at least. The first, he stated in Federalist Papers number 10, an enlightened statesman will not always be at the helm. That's why we need an active and involved citizenry to vote out the people who don't belong there and who aren't doing a good job. And the second is, a public debt is a public curse. If this bond passes, if you don't care about me, care about the bond. If the bond passes, it's another curse that's going to be passed on to the taxpayers and passed on to the Lone Star College District. Kyle Scott, Lone Star College, position number 2. Thanks for your time.
I'm Ron Trowbridge, and Kyle said it all. And besides, that sign over there says occupancy 22 people in here. Oh, it's from here in? Oh, because I didn't want to ask these people to leave. I know there are more than 22. No, Kyle said it all. So I'll talk about something else. I have to tell you, you know, this group was really started by Phyllis Schlafly. And one of the positions I had at Washington, D.C. was to be the Chief of Staff for Chief Justice Warren Berger. And then I was staff director of the Commission on the Bicentennial of the Constitution. And I'm in favor of the Constitution. A lot of members of the Supreme Court aren't. So, and I had to run the meetings, and you know who would be in these meetings? In the room, I had to run meetings with Phyllis Schlafly here and Ted Kennedy here. Now, you want to see group dynamic. How would you run a meeting? You got Phyllis Schlafly sitting here and Ted Kennedy sitting here. But they never once got in a fight. We restrained them. The whole time, although I think they were both, they looked daggers at one another. Let me just say for credentials, I'll do this very, very quickly. I was the Chief of Staff for Berger. I worked with him for 9 years. I also was appointed by President Reagan, who was absolutely one of the nicest guys in the whole world. And I directed what was called the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs. For the United States government, I went all over the world negotiating exchanges between other governments and this government. I was a vice president at Hillsdale College, which is maybe the only college in the country that takes no federal money. No federal money, no federal loans, no federal or state, nothing. couldn't get a federal dollar or state dollar. I have a PhD in English from the University of Michigan, and our basketball team is doing well. And as I said the other day, I don't know why we haven't done better, because our entrance requirements at Michigan were just as low as any other school. I was a tenured professor, and I taught at Lone Star from 206 to 212. Oh, that's enough of that. I do want to show you one thing. Okay, this has to do with, to me, ethics. And the fellow there in the back in the meeting we had the other day asked me, was there such a thing as truth? Now, how would you respond to that? Is there such a thing as truth? And I said, yeah. And I said, actually, you're raising an old argument there about whether there can be any permanent absolute value or whether all values are relative. Now, this thing here is being sent out by the college. It is unethical. Okay? It says in here, for example, there will be no tax rate increase. Well, that's true. But you know what? As Kyle said, you're still going to be in debt. You, not the college, you're going to be in debt $1 billion. So they say your tax rates won't go up, but by the way, the college is going to need $1 billion in tax money. The other thing here that they're not saying to you is that your tax rates will not go up. It's true. But your assessed home values will go up and you will pay more. This thing is unethical. It's unethical, and on the grounds of ethics. And then it says, right now, and these people are dishonest. No, yes. I go, just what it says here, where'd it go? This year we have 78,000 students. Now what they don't tell you is that most of those people are part-time students. But we have 70,000 students. And as Kyle said, by the year 2018, we will be up to 110,000. But as he pointed out, the Higher Education Board, which is the board selected by the legislature to administer all higher ed, says that the growth of Lone Star College between now and 2020 will go from 78,000 to 82. But they want $500 million. Now let me say one other nasty thing and then I'll sit down. As I say, this is just a question of, I think, bad ethics here. And you're being asked to do something here that in fact they're not leveling with you. They're just not leveling. So, what I intend to say now is true. If you intend to vote for the bond issue, I am not going to let you out the door. If I can run a meeting with Schlafly and Kennedy, then I can keep you inside. But no, I am running and Kyle's running. But not against each other. Yeah, not against each other.
What position are you running?
I don't know.
Go be here all week.
Be here all week. Yeah, I do have a brochure. And I want to tell you that much of it is true. That was just a question about truth. There, I've told you more than I know.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Jensen, Dr. Liz, however you want to say it. I just got back from a Lone Star College board meeting, and the reason why I had to go to the meeting, I really wanted to come and hear the talk, was because they have a $500 million bond proposal on the ballot this May. Now, the problem with the bond proposal is that they are projecting 110,000 students by 2018. Now, what the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board has predicted, and these are the guys that advise legislatures on distributing money, is that Lone Star College will have 82,000 students by 2020. Now, what I saw at the meeting was that they were trying to debate the numbers on their enrollment. And what they kept on bringing up for their numbers were not the numbers that have been reported to the state of Texas. So, in summary, what I strongly advise is that you do not vote on the bond. But very quickly about me, I am a space physicist. I have a professional engineering license in fire protection. And I work for the Planetary Science Institute doing research. I shoot rocks to study asteroid impacts. And then I also I work for a small business, and we do investigations for insurance and legal companies. And I am running for the Lone Star College Board of Trustees, position number 1, because I do not feel that they are on top of the problems. This problem with the bond went through a Lone Star College board meeting where I would have stopped them as soon as they showed me the plot where they predicted enrollment. So I said, hold on a second, there's something wrong with this figure, we need to talk about this. But it went through. By the end of February, they voted to put it on the ballot. I would never have let that through. So if you have any questions, go ahead and ask me. I'll pass out handouts that more clearly describe the bond situation. Ron has done quite a bit of research on the changing needs and demands that you have on facilities from students. And thank you so much for letting me come and speak to you guys.
First of all, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you. The reason I'm running late, and I'm going to talk to the microphone, the reason I'm running late is because I just came from our Lone Star College board meeting. Our regular board meeting coincides with your regular meeting, and I raced up here at the risk of getting a speeding ticket on the I-45, and I made it here safely, I'm glad to say. I am a native of San Antonio, Texas, but I've lived in the Woodlands, South County, for 22 years. Lifelong conservative, lifelong Republican. I'm the father of 3 boys. A year from now, I will have 2 boys in college and 1 boy in graduate school. Nobody knows the cost of college education better than I do, and it's only going up. It's ridiculous, quite frankly. That's why I love serving on the Lone Star College Board. I'm proud to be a board member and I'm proud to be a trustee. I was appointed to fill a vacancy created by the election of Chris Daniel, who was my predecessor. He got elected district clerk of Harris County. So he couldn't hold 2 elected positions at the same time. I was one of 27 people who applied. I'm the only person running for this spot who applied just over 2 years ago. And the reason I did it, because I've never held any political office, ever. Never run for anything since 8th grade. I ran for student body president, student council president in 8th grade, and I won because I passed out lollipops that said vote for Tom. Okay? I can't do that in this. There's too many lollipops that I need to pass out. But I do it because I love the community that I live in. I'm proud of what Lone Star stands for and what it has accomplished. Our tuition is 1/5 of the tuition of my alma mater, University of Texas. And there's no reason why our kids in the Lone Star College system can't have a first-class education right in their own backyard. That's what Lone Star stands for. That's what we plan to do in the future. On May 11th, there will be an election. Early voting starts on April 29th. Nobody's going to be thinking about voting in April or May. That's our biggest challenge. We have a bond election on May 11th, along with a trustee election. I want to beg you to please go vote. Please vote. Please encourage your neighbors to vote. What's at stake in the bond election is creating infrastructure to accommodate what we are forecasting as continued increased enrollment in our system. Anybody who is in this room who thinks that North Houston area, the South Montgomery County area, is going to decrease in population rather than increase over the next 5 years, please raise your hand. Please. Most people who live in Montgomery County come to Montgomery County because Houston's getting too big and the traffic's only getting worse. It's not getting better. We need, and we're asking the voters to exercise their right to vote to support this bond election to allow us to accommodate forecasted growth. We can have an intellectual debate about how much bigger the student body will be. I'm willing to have that debate with somebody, although I'm not the expert in forecasting that information. We hired experts to do that, and they tell us we're going to grow. I can't, as a sitting trustee, afford to come up short. I need to have buildings to put our students in, and we need to have first-class facilities to make that happen. So please vote for the bond. I would ask you to please vote for me. I only brought tonight information on the bond election that I'll leave with you and can be passed out on the table. It's a really easy, short read that you can look at. Liz, you're still here. Thank you for pointing out that slide number 12 in our PowerPoint on the bond election website is blank. Liz comes to our meetings all the time, and I appreciate that. When you were speaking this evening, I went to the website, and the slide number 12 was blank. I have been promised it will be fixed by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Okay? Thank you. Pardon me?
What position number are you running?
Number 2. And so I think Dr. Scott was here earlier, or is here. And then I want to commend him because he and I both went to the University of Texas. And we don't, now with Johnny football and everything, we don't get to really talk out loud about going to UT. But I have I have really good opponents with outstanding credentials. I think I'm better qualified. I would like for you to vote for me, but I really want you to get out and vote and support the bond. It's important, and it's going to have an impact that goes long beyond my tenure on the board. So thank you for your time, and have a good evening. Thank you.